Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
Welcome to our series on the 2024 zoning amendments. We thank you for tuning in and hope you find this information extremely helpful. Now to take a look at proposed zoning amendment number 5. And it reads as follows. Amending the accessory dwelling unit requirements by converting them from permitted by conditional use permit to permitted, and also update the reference in section 304, removing the need for planning board approval and public hearing, remove inaccurate language referencing state statutes, and change the required parking spaces to a minimum of 1 for an accessory dwelling unit, in addition to the spaces required for the single-family home. That seems pretty simple. John, you want to talk us through that a little more?
So this amendment is about accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. These are accessory dwelling units, as the name would suggest. These are smaller dwelling spaces that are accessory to a primary structure, like a single-family detached house, for example. And they can be either attached to that house or detached, but they tend to be smaller. They are sometimes referred to as in-law units, more commonly in kind of common parlance. And we want to make some changes here. They are allowed currently, as by state law. They have to be in all municipalities. But it is up to us to some extent how we regulate those. And so what we're proposing here is that we allow them in certain parts of town by right rather than by conditional use permit. What that means is if you want to put in an accessory dwelling unit, rather than going through the process of coming to the planning board and getting approval from the planning board, we streamline that a little bit by giving you the right to do that by default. You still have to go through the permitting process and meet all other regulations. It just means that what some might perceive as a barrier of coming to the planning board is reduced. And it also means the planning board has seen quite a few of these applications recently, and it also kind of lightens our load a little bit to spend more time more closely looking at some of the bigger applications. What is also entailed here is making a slight change to the wording of this part of the zoning ordinance. Currently, the zoning ordinance says that accessory dwelling units help us meet our workforce housing requirements, so the number of affordable units of housing in town, and the zoning ordinance says that all accessory dwelling units do this, which is not really true. And so we just want to clarify that. Many accessory dwelling units do in fact meet workforce housing requirements, but some do not, and they don't necessarily meet those requirements. So we want to let's clarify that language. And finally, currently, to build an accessory dwelling unit on your property, you're supposed to add 2 additional parking spaces for the accessory dwelling unit, which on a lot of single-family lots would make for a burdensome number of parking spaces as a requirement. So we are proposing reducing the number of parking spaces from 2 to 1. If you have space and you still want to do 2 parking spaces, you may, but as a minimum, you'd only have to put in 1 parking space. And those are our proposed changes to the accessory dwelling unit regulations.
Thank you, John. And thank you for tuning in. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the planning department or the planning board. We look forward to seeing you next time.